I had everything I needed to traverse the tunnels and face the horror. Welcome back to Asylum, everybody. I'm fucking nervous. I'm not even nervous in like a horror sense necessarily, though I am, because I'm not sure what I'm gonna find down here. I'm mostly nervous because the game is coming to an end, and the ending is going to make so much of my final opinion of this game. I've really enjoyed it so far, but I'm worried that there may not be enough left. You know, the way that they're structuring it is kind of like how in Scratches you find James's, you find the room underneath the chapel, and I feel like that was the equivalent of the room we found upstairs with the arcane shit in it. But I'm hoping that there's still going to be at least a good hour of gameplay left beyond this door. We will see. I poured some oil on the wheel. I'll have some thoughts to share by the end if this is the final episode, but I really ought to sit on most of them. I gotta do this one too. Just a drop of oil would be enough. Opening in the construction area was boarded up. Well, I don't know if we're quite ready yet to go for it, because we need a mind shield, don't we? As they described in the writing. Something to, shield us from the horrors inside? Or have we technically already got that, being that we suffer from some kind of amnesia? Gosh, I'm just so nervous. I very much, I mentioned it, I'm a pretty harsh critic when it comes to things relating to story. I tend to hold that the ending of a story is usually the most important part, and I really feel like the ending of this story is really going to make or break a lot of it for me. Especially because, and I don't want to understate this, the happenings with Rebecca in the last episode. What happened with Rebecca in, like, the flashback was so fucking horrible that, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to say too much. Basically, my opinion of what happened to Rebecca and her unborn child is going to ultimately hinge on what happens in this final chapter. Because if that event just happened for the sake of, like, gross out, shock factor, horrible thing happening in the asylum, then I'm really not a fan of it, and I think that that's, you know, not quite deplorable, but maybe like a cheap shot in terms of, like, making this game scary. However, something tells me that Senscape uses every part of the buffalo, so to speak. And if that's the case, then I feel that there is a little more to the story about Rebecca's miscarriage. I gotta do these two wheels too, of course. And if that's the case, I really think that the arcane occult freaks who ran this place were not going to let a fetus go to waste. You know what I mean? I think that there is yet some terrible implication, something that Rebecca's kid was used for. Likely pertaining to, how they couldn't comprehend the shit in here. We'll see. Wouldn't it be so cool if we go down and down and down, and by the end we end up at the sea cliffs and we're like on the ocean side? Maybe we will end at the shore after all. On the stone archway. Lenny?
Lenny, what are you doing here?
The time has come.
But how?
This is the place where it all happened. And now you must proceed.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting
Where
this.
have you been all this time?
I've always been here. With you.
What are you saying? Lenny, please. You're my only friend.
No one here can have friends.
What? Lenny, don't make jokes like that. You're scaring me.
Why are you doing this?
Why am I? I need to understand. I want peace.
Then go. The answer lies at the end of this tunnel.
Lenny.
I must go now.
Where did your clothes go, Lenny? That was what we saw a vision of briefly when the fucking biopsy machine went into our eye. And I know I saw something slip and fall off the side of the wall here. Was it this? Ellis, I'm leaving behind this hasty note in the event that you can follow my steps. The situation upstairs is untenable, and may have reached a point of no return with that revolting scene in the female wing. They couldn't handle it, Ellis. Their minds are too feeble. But they served our purpose, and I have enough details now to understand what lies inside that cave. This is the second incursion of authorities into the premises, and we won't get away with things so easily this time. My own actions have raised suspicions, putting me under close scrutiny. There will be a thorough investigation, they'll ask more questions, and we can't afford to lose control of our discovery. Never. This is the end of the Institute. So I've made my decision. I'm going in. We've wasted too much valuable time assessing the risks when we both know that no civilized human being has ever attempted this. Risks? Bah! Between facing the authorities and concluding an encounter postponed by unfathomable eons, the outcome of which is unknown, I choose to feast my eyes on the enrapturing radiance of Phout. Phalote. I don't know how to say it. It's ours. We've earned it. Remember that. Should the worst-case scenario present itself after this irrational adventure, I leave my last revelatory finding on these papers. The tumor? It's a mechanism, Ellis. The tumor acts as a sort of fail-safe device. Phout, in his endless wisdom, honed through vast passages of time that our pathetic minds couldn't grasp, understood the risks of taking control of an inferior organism. What lies beyond the cave? Is the vessel being threatened in some way? How can he know if the organism will survive? So the entity only goes so far in the reconfiguration of foreign tissue. He leaves only a part of himself, as a test, or maybe as some kind of probe, which our biology develops as a tumor. This is the abnormal growth that we observed in the patients. Ironically, it was him observing us the entire time. And that, Ellis, is our biggest mistake. Yes, the patients relayed critical visual information to us, but the entity sensed the threat. We may be among the elite of our peers, but in the presence of Phout, we are arrogant and stupid creatures. I still have to decrypt the significance of the visions, but I believe they represent beacons. This is the part I couldn't properly translate. They are somehow part of the failsafe system. What I do know is that he wants to leave, patiently waiting until an ambitious but strong soul faces him and successfully withstands his powerful gaze. Whoever is chosen will not only participate in a cosmic symbiosis our earthly religions could only dream of, but gain an epical power transcending our human condition. I should be able to tolerate his sight. If my suspicions are correct, Ellis, not even our wildest theories could have prepared us for him. I may not be in control of myself after I enter that chamber. Take all necessary precautions to ensure that our discovery remains safe. No one can proceed beyond this point but me. Walter Hanwell. Oh boy. So this is here is the eye of the universe then. No one's really been to this point. Somewhere in this tunnel there's a changeover. Where we leave one world and enter a realm that we don't consciously recall. Is this a mine elevator? How in the hell did they install an industrial mine elevator? If we go deeper and deeper, we could come out on the ocean side. What? Why are you banging against the walls? Is it moving? Oh boy. What were those phosphorescent mushrooms? I see a red light down the way. This is where I'm really going to be scouring every screen. I don't want to miss anything important here. Those weird altar things that they kept in the room upstairs. Turn up the brightness. I want to be able to really see what's going on down here. It's a lock of sorts. I'm assuming this thing is the key. Wait, something else here needs to be manipulated. It's some kind of puzzle. I don't understand how yet. The outer ring pops forward. This side has a little crest on it that the other ones don't. Okay, something happens with that one that's of note at the very least. So it's symmetrical now, at least the little curvy things are. Now can I unlock it? Okay, now it bends that way. That seems to have done it. Is that a baby crying? Six a.m. I'm locked in the shed, in the courtyard, aren't I? I think I am. Dude, I believe that was some kind of Deep One amalgam with Rebecca's unborn child. How did I get here? Okay, well, the good news is that it's broad daylight and we're still in the game. I was afraid that this game was going to not quite cop out, but that it might end as soon as we hit daylight, as is a trend in some horror adventures. Where's Julia? I haven't spoken to Julia in hours. I miss her.
Did you find what you were looking for?
So it was a sudden ending. I'm gonna need to sit with that for some time. Aww. Dog, I just feel bad about Julia. Discharged, left the asylum. How much have I missed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a 10. Something there hasn't been missed. There are some memories missing. There's some letters missing. Findings beneath the Institute. One of these is missing. Those are all there. Okay, I gotta say, I'm surprised by that ending. I'm not quite happy with it yet. Maybe I will be if I think about it more, but my god, I didn't think they would leave it open as like such a puzzle. I have a lot of things to say. I'm just trying to order my thoughts and decide when and how to say them. First of all, let's go back and see if there's possibly another ending. So, oh shit, it's not even what I was thinking. Was that ending, did we become... There it is again! Like, I saw it again. There was something that moved before the tunnel fell apart. Could that really have been a mistake? Something fell out of the wall right here on my right. Lights flicker, and then Lenny teleports. Why does he teleport? Is this actually Lenny? I don't know. What's on his face, too? That doesn't just look like ash, it's like some kind of war paint. His hair.
Lenny, what are you doing here?
Am I crazy, or is this a younger Lenny?
Happened.
And how did he get in here?
I've always been here.
Was that actually Lenny? Was that the real Lenny and I've been encountering a different Lenny this whole game? Possibly? No, that wouldn't make sense. Why did I see a board fall right here? Could it have been that? That discovery right here, which I already read? Yes, 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 yes. Why did the thing in the chamber cry like a baby? That's what I was thinking was going to happen. Was, of course, that, the Hanwell, the doctors, fed the fetus to the thing. glows. That's it glowing. It's not just the lights messing with us. And it glows like the mushrooms we saw on the way down the elevator. It cries like a baby. And then the eye glows. It looks at us and the eye glows. And wake up in the shed of all places. I thought that this shed was going to be completely unused the whole game. Okay, seems I got a little too hasty when I came here before. Maybe there's more things that I can find if I look around. There was a mattress laid down for us. Why would there be a mattress here? Suppose that the whole reason we came back to the asylum, the reason that we had the visions, maybe it was because the tumor in our head was a thing, and it was the entity, as previously established, Phout, whatever you call it, and it was calling us back because it wanted us to be its vessel. Is that what we're going for? We learn at the last second that the tumors are mechanisms? Oh no, I can't open this door. Is it just blind Julia every time? Surely there must be some reason why I wind up here and I don't just go straight to the cutscene. I might as well save the game again, because maybe I want to come back and have another look at this closely. Invalid. This chapter is titled Invalid with an exclamation point. Why would it be that? There are no subtitles on anything. I don't think we're the same character anymore. Normally he can't shut the fuck up, but right now he has no observations to make. He approaches the door like he's confused, and he's humming. What is he humming? And whistling. And he looks in the mirror, and his eyes are red. Are they red? He's got, I mean, that's the first time we see him. And in the credits, he's billed as the Visitor. Okay. Ellis Hawthorne was John Bell. I didn't clock that. Hawthorne, the evil doctor, he was voiced by Michael Arthate. Invalid. Why would it be called Invalid? Just because that's what we become? But why the exclamation point? Alright. I am legit just going to, explore the asylum while I muse on things. So, beginning of last episode, I said that I had an idea of a pretty big twist that this game was going to have that I almost didn't want to say because I didn't want to ruin it for anyone if I was right, and I wanted to see how the game would do it. And funny enough, the game did not actually confirm or deny the twist, even into the credits. But I bet we can get an alternate ending if I acquire a mind shield. Oh, I don't know if I should say that. I don't want to hold out for hope that there's an alternate ending because, like, why should I? I mean, Scratch's, the original game didn't have an alternate. It wasn't until he did a re-release that added new stuff, and I don't think that this game needs a director's cut. Actually, a director's cut of this game could be kind of sick, but he spent 14 years working on it. I'm sure he's eager to be working on something else. Anyhow, I distract myself. The theory that I had halfway through, thanks to you guys pointing it out, and then it just made too much sense to me the more that I looked into it. I am almost certain that this player character is Walter Hanwell. I think we're playing as the guy whose name is on the building. The guy who was in control of everything, who wrote letters to Ambrose. It's too convenient for us to not be him. no one has actually met him face to face. There were too many lines that were, like, perfectly suspicious. Like, when we asked Lenny, did he ever meet Walter Hanwell, he said no, or that he couldn't remember. Even Ambrose Miller, the guy who literally knew Walter Hanwell and wrote to him all the time, never met him face to face. That is because the character could only work if we were Walter and no one could physically recognize us. Being Walter Hanwell also explains why we had all the memories of things happening inside the hospital, especially of things happening with Group E, but we weren't actually a member of Group E. And I don't think it is any coincidence that in this book, there's reports about everyone in Group E, and none of them are us. Okay, here we have Hanwell's office. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at the stare, look at the eyebrows. We played as Walter Hanwell through this entire game. Whew, I actually quite like that twist. I like that it's understated. They don't shove it in your face. They don't even bill him as Walter Hanwell in the credits. He's the visitor. But that's who that was. That is 100% the stare of the same dude. So let's weigh the gravity of what that means if we played as Hanwell. We got exposed at one point. Didn't the letters say to the thing? Like, we got exposed, and that's why we have a tumor, of course. So I think that it was that Phout, the entity, called us back. That's why the visions wouldn't go away. It's not because we actually had a mental illness. It's because we had a little Bluetooth airdrop connection to the monster. And it kept on haunting us and calling us to come back. I don't even know if we actually had amnesia throughout the game. And I don't think we suddenly become Hanwell at the very end. I think at the very end we are Phout and we're just evil. Or, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, Hanwell was never, like, sadistic, crazy evil. Man, I just need to mention what's on my mind. Kind of a bummer that we don't get, like, a justice resolution for Hawthorne. Hawthorne needed to suffer. He did some horrible shit. Us being Hanwell is justified by the tapes of Hawthorne torturing people, where there was a voice in the back giving orders, like, torture Lenny. But that voice was muffled because we weren't supposed to recognize it as our own. There are documents that I missed. There must be any number of things that I missed. Really, I'm gonna say like some final remarks about the game, and of course this will be a shorter video. But I ought to sit with it for longer. I ought to hear what the community has to say about the ending and see if there are more theories. Maybe I'll come back with a fresh recording after chatting with some leading theorists. Try to figure it out. Alright, everybody. I drank some water, ate some breakfast, and wrote a whole fucking essay about this game right here in front of me on this paper. So I think I'm ready to give some theories, highlight some questions I still have unanswered, and share my final review of the game for the time being. So the first thing that I think is worth mentioning is that I went into the achievements for this game, and there are 2 hidden achievements that, since you can just go on global and it shows you a spoiler for what they're for, one of them is just called Wire Cutters Fan, and it's for beating the whole game with the wire cutters in your inventory somehow. I think it would have to be that you just don't open up the library shortcut so that they don't break, and just play the whole game without using that shortcut. The other achievement, secret achievement, is to listen to the radio at 5 a.m., which it is right now. I thought that it was talking about this radio here in the game room, and I was very confused about that, but I have learned from the Senscape Discord that it's actually referring to the car radio. So now we're both going to go out there together and listen to whatever this is at the same time. I feel like it's going to be an Easter egg, but I'm just holding out for hope that it might just be a tiny little nugget of lore that could change some of the meaning of the ending of this game. We'll see. So I can just get back in the car and turn on the radio. This tells me absolutely nothing. Well, there's no time like the present then to go ahead and get into some of the theories that I've put together. God, where to begin? Apart from the stuff that I already just mindlessly said to you about the end of the game and Phaut's influence on us, I remain convinced, this is my main theory that I want to talk about, that Rebecca's kid was used for some Phaut-related purpose. Now, hear me out. Let me just read out what I wrote down here. The child must have had the tumor too. If Rebecca's kid is physically inside of her because she's pregnant, and Rebecca has the tumor because she's been exposed to the shit that's going on, then her kid must have the tumor, the fail-safe mechanism too, the feeler. And so, because of this, I really think that all along, Hanwell had the plan to give Rebecca's kid to Phaut. And I'll get into why, but I think that is something that just, for him being a mad scientist of sorts, that he would be irresistible for him to not do that. Okay, well, here's the writing reason why I believe that's the case, that this is important. Because a self-inflicted, sanguinary abortion is the sort of thing that's so awful, even in horror fiction, that I would expect an author as solid as Augustine to not write one into the story unless it was an important element. Otherwise, I genuinely feel that the conclusion to Rebecca's story was just kind of tasteless and done for shock value, which is not what I've come to expect from Augustine and Senscape writing. So, maybe I'm wrong, and if that's the case, then I'm just coping really hard, but I feel like there has to be some importance to the horrible end of Rebecca and her kid's life, apart from just gross out Outlast style shock factor. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I mean, the thing is, there are so many other ways that you could have resolved Rebecca's arc that could have, and I feel would have been, at least more interesting in my head. And this way is very inconclusive, and I feel it is that way for a reason. The thing that's important to me is what could have been done if the child was properly born, which is what I think Hanwell was accounting for, because we've established that in order to commune with Phaut and not instantly get murked by just the crazy horrors and shit, you need a mind shield, is what they call it. And a mind shield is described as like psilocybin or ayahuasca, some sort of hallucinogen, is what the servers or whatever they use, the old civilization who communed with Phaut, born, which is what I think Hanwell was accounting for, because we've established that in order to commune with Phaut and not instantly get murked by just the crazy horrors and shit, you need a mind shield, is what they call it. And a mind shield is described as like psilocybin or ayahuasca, some sort of hallucinogen, is what the servers or whatever they use, the old civilization who communed with Phaut. But all the main characters in the game all the characters of Group E, have some sort of mental impairment that acts as their mind shield, because it stops them from seeing reality, or more specifically, seeing Phaut for what it is, so they're not quite getting the full blast. It's like wearing eclipse glasses at the sun and shit. What I'm proposing now is, would an infant not have a mind shield too? Just like a newborn infant right out of the womb in this horrible hypothetical scenario, they would also have a mind shield of sorts, because they can't comprehend anything, let alone a fucking eldritch horror abomination underneath the asylum. So it makes perfect sense to me that Hanwell had probably a long con cooked plan that as soon as Rebecca's very unwanted child was born, he was going to take it down to the tunnel and give it to Phaut to see what would happen. Because, like, that must be just the evil mad scientist to me is just like, but what happens if you take a perfectly healthy human being and expose it to an unbelievable, like, mind-bending horror at childbirth, and then it grows into an adult, gradually adapting to horrors that a normal human wouldn't be able to see. Like, that's where I thought we were going with Rebecca's kid before the very sudden and sad death of that child happened. It's bizarre to me, because I feel that it must be intentional, and I know that it's intentional. Hang on, let me tell you why. Because in the Senscape Discord, where for the past couple of days I've been talking with people who beat the game, in the game after Asylum, after talk, just about theories and shit, we got to discussing about the ending. A lot of people don't like the ending, as you can imagine. I'm warming up to it. I like it more than I did in the moment. And Augustine chimed in, and he said, I left some comments in the Steam forums, so it's only fair that I leave a few words here as well. This is the ending which has been originally intended since 2010. Nothing was rushed. It's okay that you hate it, which is based. Few remember this, but initially, the Scratch's conclusion was loathed too. Only time will tell if Asylum will age as well, but what you're seeing here is all intentional. And then he says, any specifics that I provide will ruin the idea, so I'll have to bite my tongue and let it flow. I can only say that there are nuances easily missed on a first run, providing closure in a number of ways. There are nuances easily missed on a first run, providing closure in a number of ways. What did he mean by that? I didn't really process that part. Bottom line, that's the go-ahead to me of just Augustine saying, it's all on purpose, there's a reason for everything. And to me, the thing that doesn't make sense is the sudden and seemingly disconnected death of Rebecca, or of Rebecca's kid, because it's revealed like it's a late game element, but it's never directly tied into the story. So I really, really, really feel like that is an important puzzle piece that I just can't figure out how to orient into the rest of the puzzle. Something about having just an undocumented child to experiment with to Hanwell and Hawthorne would have just been like a fucking unbelievable prospect. They definitely wanted to do that. And I almost wonder if the reason that Hanwell runs right down to the chamber immediately after shit hits the fan upstairs with the abortion, I almost wonder if the reason for that is because Hanwell takes the fetus or what's left of it with him. Because the fetus is probably dead. But I almost wonder if, like, in the Asylum story, if things can't be physically dead, but like ethereally, Lovecraftily, cosmically alive. Kind of like how you see in other Lovecraftian media, like fucking Bloodborne. Maybe it's like the fetus is orphan of cause, and you have to kill the physical version, but also like the nightmare spiritual version, and they're separate. Maybe the fetus is physically dead, but spiritually somehow alive because it was connected to Phout through the tumor, and that's why we hear a baby crying when we go to meet Phout at the end. Other people have said that the baby crying at the end represents Phout being reborn in our body. I don't know if I buy that totally. You know what, in fact, I'd like to call attention to real quick. If I load the 6 a.m. save, the one that says Invalid, let's load that real quick. I had everything I needed to traverse the tunnels and face the horse. Okay, that's outdated. That's not supposed to read there because I've already done that. Is there anything in the tasks? Just find the catacombs, encounters with the entity, still all these people. I quite enjoyed speaking with Julia. She gave me a sense of peace and comfort that I didn't expect to find in this place. I wonder if these are outdated. Dr. Hanwell was closely acquainted with Dr. Miller, who apparently was keen on becoming his successor. That's an interesting thing to say about Hanwell, to tie in Miller to it. I think these are all slightly outdated. These aren't supposed to be what we currently think. Why is items glowing? It was a sturdy valve that could be attached to a spigot or similar. I was curious if any of this stuff in the notebook might be particularly influential here at the end. Why would valve be glowing? Items glow when they're reintroduced to your inventory. Is this suggesting that sometime between me going into Phout and me coming back into my body in this courtyard, did I use the valve on something? That is very, very, very strange. Maybe I just didn't update it from before. That might just be it. It might be nothing. Forget about it. There's so much theory crafting going on right now. I'll leave a link to the Senscape Discord in the description of this video in case you want to go and throw your hat into the ring, tell us something that you observed that we missed. There's so much being discussed. People want to know why Walter Hanwell, if that's who the protagonist is, didn't recognize himself when he went into his office and saw his painting on the wall. People are trying to figure out if we actually have amnesia or if the whole time we were just concealing the fact that we were Hanwell. There's so much to discuss. I think it's possible that Phailot's powers can allow Slain to be physically dead but ethereally alive. This means that underground Lenny may not have been a hallucination. Much like how I said maybe the fetus physically was dead but was spiritually still somehow down there with Phailot. Maybe Lenny was like physically up there but he was down there. It's possible that Lenny could have been Phailot's vessel the whole game, or at least for part of the game, and that's why he was being helpful and slowly prodding us in the right direction, doing things like giving us Hawthorne's key. If that's the case, if Lenny was the vessel and we were speaking to Phailot not knowing it, Phailot might have just been slowly guiding us towards the underground so that we could be the new vessel, because Lenny had leukemia, so he was going to die eventually, and Phailot wanted to get out. I also think it's very interesting that Phailot glowed green like those mushrooms we saw on the elevator shaft walls. only Phout can't leave the chamber without a vessel, so somehow residue of Phout gets outside onto the mushrooms. Maybe spores got tracked out by Lenny being pulled out with a rope and the other groupie patients. I don't know. I have written here, the biggest unanswered questions that I can think of are, when does this game take place? We know that the ASYLUM was probably shut down around 1976 because the MRI was patented in 74. What was Walter Hanwell doing all the years that the place was shut down? Really not sure on that. Walter Hanwell goes into the tunnel, engages with Phout, and then he goes away, and then comes back. Years and years later. Don't know why. And what happened to Walter Hanwell the last time he entered the chamber? Why did we go in but come back? So much I don't know. Well, that's enough rambling theory talk. I have some final remarks about the game. Let me just get this binder out of here. Give me these pages. I want this pages out of this stupid-ass binder. In a vacuum, I loved this game. I thought that the story was fantastic, setting and music too, everything felt so meticulously put together. I noticed that the music at times felt like it was perfectly synced to dialogue and just what was going on, and that is a really neat touch that I enjoyed.
Then go. The answer lies at the end of this tunnel.
Thematically, Hammer and Lovecraft vibes are flawless. One slowly devolves into the other, with the possible exception of Rebecca's kid. That's really like the only thing in the story that I feel doesn't fit, unless it is a puzzle piece to something important that I haven't figured out yet. Overall, it was a very tastefully done game. My biggest concern was that it was going to be, like, exploitive and outlasty, and it was anything but that. All dialogue and all the documents were very intelligently written. They did not insult the player's intelligence. The player was treated with utmost respect and dignity throughout this entire game, which I really appreciate. It was like I was playing the game with the game. For puzzles, you guys are gonna have to tell me how puzzles worked for you, because I played this game like genuinely seamlessly. It was just a flow from start to finish. I always understood what I was supposed to be doing. Puzzles sometimes stumped me a little bit because I didn't figure out how to do things, but I knew what I was supposed to do. The greenhouse was really just my biggest complaint in the game because I left that room before the chapter break and I wasn't able to access the greenhouse until after it, so puzzles got a little bit out of order there, which is kind of confusing to me, but otherwise, it's not every day that I play a game where I can just get through it without hints and immense frustration. So that was impressive, at least to me. But what about you guys? Did you need hints for this, or did it flow seamlessly for you too? If I tried playing Scratches without searching hints, I would still be playing Scratches. Like, that would not go well for me. Characters and cutscenes blew me away. If you played Scratches, you know that game avoided showing characters for a reason. It was 2006 and they did not look good. This game just spoiled us with cutscenes, though. To the point where I would actually say we didn't need all of them. Changing out every film reel was a neat touch, but if that took a lot of time to make, I might recommend skipping out on extraneous things like that no one would know are missing for future games that you make. Characters were great. Dialogue didn't feel hand-holdy. I loved the very, very many Easter eggs and pop culture references. It was reminding me that this was a game and I was supposed to be having fun. It did not have to be like a really gruesome, somber experience from start to finish. There was a lot of welcome comedic relief in there. I only wish that the characters were around longer, though. It felt like everyone but Lenny disappeared after 2 or 3 a.m., and that gave the second half of the game kind of a more rushed feeling, because so much of the first half was talking to people. I really missed when talking to people went away. I did not like the sudden chapter breaks on the hour. That was, that might be like my single biggest objective critique of the game. Sure, they helped compartmentalize the story and, like, signify when progress was made, but some chapters went by so quick that I felt like the game was calling attention to how quick it was moving at times. And this game did go by very fast. I beat this blind in 9 hours. And that is much quicker than I was expecting, much quicker than I would ideally hope for a game of this caliber. Like, I'll openly say I felt like I could have done with an extra hour of gameplay or two. I was really hoping that that elevator shaft, I was gonna get in that, and it was gonna climb down and show like this fucking crazy bioluminescent glow-in-the-dark temple that was like buried underneath the mountain where the fucking servants had built a little civilization. That would have been metal as fuck. I would have loved that, but instead we got like a door, and we opened the door, and then just went right into cutscene, and we lose our grip on reality. I was so hoping we were going to get a temple of some kind, but we did not. I may have played it really, really quickly because I'm familiar with how Senscape does puzzles, so I knew what to expect. Again, you guys are going to have to tell me, comment down below if you played this game, how long did it take you to beat the main story, and if you needed spoilers and shit. I mean, but like, the chapter breaks were an issue, but there were other things that this game did with UI that was fantastic. I cannot understate that, like, you know, you right-click to pull up the task list, the notepad, you hit escape to open up this book, which is the menu, and that's it. When you launch this game, it takes you right to your most recent save, and that's fucking awesome. Someone in your Discord literally said that it feels like when I turn on my PS4 and it just resumes the game that I was playing. This game is just all business. It really respects the player and their time. It doesn't waste their time with logos or like advertisements at the beginning or fucking epilepsy warnings even. You just click on Asylum, you hit launch game, and then you're just in the game right where you left off. And the first time you launch it, it just goes right into the opening cutscene. I love that. This game was really, really well done in that way. Why have I lost the scavenger diagnosis? So what I'm getting to is, in a vacuum, I loved this game. I thought it was a fantastic cinematic experience, more cinematic than Scratches, even though I like Scratches more. That's just a personal preference thing. Total love letter to its inspirations, and I might take heat for this. This is probably the best Lovecraftian horror game I've ever played. Now let me elaborate on that a little bit. I think Bloodborne is the best Lovecraftian game ever made, but that's also a AAA game that's also not even built on like story. It's all about, you know, fighting and shit like that. But I love Bloodborne. I'm a huge Bloodborne sucker. That's like a Lovecraft gold standard for me. But when I compare this to like the other well-known Lovecraft games that I've played, and I should say there are some Lovecraft games that are pretty renowned that I haven't played yet. I have not played Call of Cthulhu's Dark Corners of the Earth. I haven't played I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which I think is more of a cosmic horror game, but that's the same thing, kind of. If you want me to like compare it, I would call this like Amnesia: The Dark Descent tier. But if the question is best Lovecraftian horror game, this is really up there because it drip feeds you the Lovecraftiness with like the main coat of paint being Asylum hammer horror, and by the time you get to the end, it's I think really well handled how it does Phout and shit like that. I don't know. You guys are going to let me know about that if you think I'm actually evaluating that properly, because I think that this is like a Lovecraftian monument. This is a very, very well done Lovecraft story in a video game. In a vacuum, I loved this game. Like, genuinely 9 out of 10 minimum is what I would call it. But the issue is, I and many of the players of this game did not play it in a vacuum. We all played it with the knowledge that it took 14 years to make. I will not purport to know what made it take 14 years, but just knowing about that wait period is bound to affect a player's expectations and reactions. Content-wise, this game felt identical to Scratches, like it was structured very similarly. I would say this game probably goes a little bit quicker from Scratches, just because the progression is very kind to the player, and it always makes sure the player knows what they're supposed to be doing. Scratches is kind of bloated with a lot of dead weight, I'll admit. There's a lot of exploring the house and possibly missing important things, or not knowing what you're supposed to do. So content-wise, I feel this game is identical to Scratches, but since it took so much longer to make, I feel that a lot of players, myself included, were expecting something a little beyond Scratches. But it's a weird thing, because with that added context, reviewing this game is really difficult, because in a vacuum, it's a 9 out of 10, I love it, but knowing how long it took to make, I feel compelled to bump it down a couple points to like a 7 out of 10. Because this is what it really comes down to. This is the dilemma I have. This game is really good, I really liked it, but it's entirely affected by the player's perception of if it was worth 14 years. It's the same problem that like Cyberpunk had, or what GTA 6 and Elder Scrolls 6 are going to have, because the weight and the hype has been so vast that it will be insurmountable to the finished product. This game could have been perfect. This game could have been better than Scratch's, and a lot of people probably still would have felt that 14 years was too long of a wait. So my advice for this game, because it's not on like the global audience, and like it's not gonna get a massive hype train like those other titles were, like Elder Scrolls or Cyberpunk or anything like that. My advice about this game, if you like it and you want to recommend it to people, do not tell people that this game took 14 years to make before they play it. I think that's literally going to load their expectations in a way that would not be healthy for the game. I don't think you feel 14 years of development when you play this game. It doesn't call attention to itself in any way, and I like that. It's just a very nice, natural experience. I genuinely think people will enjoy this game immensely. They will enjoy it so much more, as much if not more than we did, if they play it blind and they don't even know that Scratches was a thing, if they just find it on Steam and it is their first introduction to Senscape without knowing the decade-long saga of this game being made. Because there's just so much that happened that I don't even know about. I understand that the engine switched halfway through, and if I had to hazard a guess, if Senscape were to continue making games, which please do, I love your games. You have not made a bad game yet. If they continue doing that, then I doubt the next one would take another 14 years. Maybe it'll take 28 years, we'll see. So on the whole, I think I have to give it 2 different scores. In a vacuum, it's a 9 out of 10. I damn well loved it. But knowing how long it take and going into it with those loaded expectations, it's gonna feel more like a 7. It's gonna feel disappointing. But I think it's going to age very, very well. Because the weird thing about the weight of the development period that's affecting this game is that time only moves forward. No one is ever going to have to experience the experience of waiting for ASYLUM again. They're just going to be like, oh, I heard about this cool ASYLUM game. I'm going to go play it. Damn, that was a cool time. I enjoyed that. And they won't have that taint to the experience of, let me just wait 15 years real quick for the game to come out before I play it. I don't know. I do have some exciting news to end this Let's Play on, which is that we technically will have a bonus episode, because I was chatting with Augustin, and he said he was down to throw together another little interview with me about this game. So if you've got questions that you want to ask Augustin or his team, or just the people who made ASYLUM in general, go ahead and throw them in the comments, and I'll pick some of them to ask him. I have some questions of my own, but I'd like to know what you guys are curious about too, because I have a habit of asking ridiculous questions that I later regret. So please, if you got questions you want to ask this man, go for it. I would maybe avoid asking overt story questions, like about the meaning and shit, because I don't think he's going to tell us much about that. But if you want to know about, like, minor details, or, like, how the game was made, or what the fuck he was doing in the last 14 years, then please ask questions about that, because I'm very eager to speak with him. Heartily enjoyed that game. It's a very, very well-polished game, I'll say. I can count on one hand blemishes that I noticed in the game. There was an animation with Lenny's character where, like, his arm clipped through his lower abdomen when he moved. And in the occult room towards the end, there was a part where I picked up a letter and it cut off the border of another letter on the desk. Those are the only 2 moments I can think of where something graphically did not compute, and it was weird. Also, I think that you could replay the body bag animation in the autopsy when it gets lowered onto the table over and over again, even if it was already on the table, which was weird. You could probably just patch that out, but it wasn't like immersion breaking or anything. Awesome game. I'm honestly not even qualified to say if it was worth 14 years, because I didn't wait 14 years, but I really enjoyed it. Having waited just probably 4 years since I played Scratches and found out this game was being made, I thought it was worth a 4-year wait. Oh, it's such a loaded question. Bottom line, thank you all for watching. I'm immensely excited to see what theories you people concoct out of this game and its bizarre story. And just please, if you're gonna recommend this game to other people, wait until they beat the game to tell them how long it took to make, because you're gonna be loading the cards in a bad way if you go telling people how long this game took to make before they play it. I think it deserves to be experienced for its own merits and to not be attached to the development time, at least on the first playthrough. I don't know, maybe my opinions on all this will change in time. Otherwise, I have a video essay in the works. It's roughly halfway done, but that might pick up in speed soon. So I'm excited to bring you that sometime this spring. And maybe an Outer Wilds experiment this summer. We'll see. Bye, everybody. Take care. And vote for Holt!